Hi everyone, Darleen here from Tuesday Talks with Darleen, and I've got a special guest with me, Chantal Vanderhaeghen. Hopefully I said that right. And her business is Unfold Your Freedom. Now I'm really excited to speak to Chantal today because we're going to talk about mental health in business. And Chantal.
Yes, that's right. Look, I'll say Chantal.
Her vision is to see women realize their dreams by gaining clarity and understanding of how trauma affects their ability to manifest a financially successful business. Now, this really hits home for me because, as you know, lots of people that follow me are aware, I do have mental health challenges, and I'm now embracing that. And I've realized there's been so much trauma because I spent 30 years in the healthcare field. So all of that beautiful trauma that I didn't realize until I did a course. So Chantal, I'd love for you to tell us, more about you and how you actually got into this.
Well, thank you, and thank you for welcoming here and everyone who's listening. Oh, I mean, I think we were just talking a little bit before we started this. We could talk for hours about a
Yes,
topic like this
good.
because it's at last we are talking about not only mental health,
Mm,
doing it without shame,
mm,
putting words to our experience. And what I realized is when I was working on my own trauma, and worked on it personally. Then it was only just recently, or like a couple of years ago, when I realized, and I'm working with my psychologist, who's now my supervisor, on
mm,
how it affects your business. Because somehow I had separated myself from it. Like I think I'd created these two personas.
mm,
Like in my personal one, I was struggling with complex PTSD. And
mm,
I didn't get who I was. Whereas in the business one, I was trying to be, hello, I'm professional, I'm Chantal, look at me, I am fine, because that's the mask we're meant to
yes,
put on.
yes, yes.
You know, we're taught this from young, particularly in a career or in a business. You know,
Mm,
you've got to leave, I mean, I don't wear much makeup, but you put on your lippy,
yeah,
I don't wear high heels, that's not the point.
yeah.
Lippy, high heels, you walk out the door, hey, I'm fine.
Mm-hmm.
You're actually really inside, you are either void or devoid of
Mm,
emotion or trauma or tears or whatever it
mm,
might be. You could be living in a violent home, which was my childhood. You know, so what happens is, of course, that affects our bodies, but it affects how we present ourselves,
mm,
how we feel we deserve. So whether it be in a business or a career, you know, you hold yourself back to a certain extent. Or the other thing I found working with clients and talking to people as we find the words, is
mm,
that you can still be very successful, but something's still missing.
mm, yes.
You don't feel fulfilled.
Mm,
You actually feel really unhappy. So
mm,
there's the two sides of this, but both come from the same base.
mm. Yes, yes. Oh, I love that, and it's just
Mm.
so amazing, and that's why I'm now showing up authentically as me. And if I'm
Yes.
having a bad day, I'm not going to tell everyone, about it, but I will say, you know what, I've had a bad moment, and this is what I've actually done to help me work through
Yes.
that. And that's what's so important. And how do you support your clients to do that?
Well, I work at the moment. What I've done is I've simplified everything. So
Mm,
when I finally realized that the trauma, in fact, the trauma became my business, or my business became the trauma. So I called it my DNA. I dropped it into my business.
mm,
So initially, so I'll go back a little bit. I had a natural skincare range because I've been working with massage and Reiki and loved aromatherapy, all those sort of things. So I'd created my range because she who feels beautiful feels free.
mm,
But what I didn't realize was that my business was spinning and I was getting nowhere. And then, anyhow, long story short, I finally dissolved my company end of last year to dissolve the energy. It was a big thing because it comes up shame.
mm,
You don't want to be a failure. You
yes.
know, how did I not know?
Mm,
Everyone else is doing well by me.
mm.
No, no, no. I had to scrap all that. So I'm still doing a little bit of forgiveness around certain things. So anyhow, but in the meantime, I went back to started doing Reiki and meditation with clients. I was starting to build. So how I thought I could do two businesses, Darling, with mental health issues,
Mhm.
you know, go figure. This is why I want to talk and share with
Mm,
people. We become even more the superwoman
mm,
because you just don't want to admit and acknowledge that you are so
mm,
struggling. You feel, I feel worthless. I felt nothing.
mm,
So having a business made me feel I could be someone. Then, of course, it didn't work, didn't go where I wanted to do. So all it did was just made everything worse.
mm,
So coming back to what you're saying, So when I went back to the psychologist. I've been seeing her on and off now for 13 and a half years from the car accident, from that, and anyhow, previous stuff as well from childhood. And suddenly, because I said to her, I'm releasing my business, but I'm going through all the emotions. I need to forgive myself. Well, I want to, blah, blah. And then that's when it went, bing. She started talking to me about business. And I said to her, went back a while later, feeling angry that hadn't been picked up beforehand, nothing to do with her. But then I realized I was incapable at the time of trying to even work that out. So I was too busy working myself out, let alone this.
Yes, yes. Yeah.
You know, and there's that, if I knew then what I know now, I would have listened to my accountant who said to me, let it go. But I couldn't, because I didn't want to, as I said earlier, be statistics. Yeah. So that's why I came into doing this work, because I feel, number one, we don't talk about trauma. Number two, we don't understand what trauma can mean. It can be benign, as Peter Levine says, walking the tightrope. It can be something benign. Mine was a small car accident. Yeah, I had severe whiplash, but it triggered me into complex PTSD because of the history that I brought into the experience. Okay? Not the injuries. So, of course, you think, well, why am I feeling like this, lost and confused? And I mean, I was a mess, versus someone, perhaps in this case, who'd had a major car accident or who'd been through something a lot worse. So, of course, we minimize.
Yes, yes. Yeah.
And then others minimize it for us. It wasn't that bad. You'll get over it. Yeah. So we don't know how to support each other with empathy. And just, we don't need to understand what the person is going through, but we can accept it, because each person comes in with a different, like, you can have the same car accident, for example, but it's what you bring into it. So it's accepting the person for who they are, because what you do understand is you've experienced emotions of anger, grief, loss, confusion, resentment, and also love, compassion, all that. Okay. So that is why I do what I do now, because I want to normalize. In fact, I can't remember his name now, a prominent psychiatrist here in Australia on the radio talking about this. And he said, he used the word democratize. I'm like, oh, what an interesting way of looking at it. Not sure, but democratize is making it that it becomes not equal, but it becomes inclusive. It becomes normalized.
Yeah.
That, we doesn't matter where what the trauma was. Well, it does, but ultimately it's what we do with it. How can we support each other?
Yes. Oh, and that's just so important. Like, I didn't realize how important it was to actually zip this and use these until I did the Diploma of Counselling course. And I actually had people listen to me and hear me. And man, did that set off some healing. Like, to have someone just hold you and just listen to you and not provide advice. The amount of advice, oh, you've got depression, just get over it. Hello.
That's right. I know, it doesn't exist, Darleen. What are you talking about? Exactly. And that's why I think IQ did the Diploma of Counselling, a different one, but that's when it's really powerful, active listening.
Yes. Yes.
Without the need to judge, without the need to make platitudes, because the other one is platitudes. Like you said, you just got depression. Don't worry about it. Get over it. Like, really?
Yep. Yeah, and the other one is because I freely admit that I've had suicidal thoughts, and because I want to talk about that. And when you say something, people are like looking at you going, and they don't know what to say. And it's like, you don't need to say anything. Just hold me. That's all I want. Just hold me. And it's the same thing in business. And this is why I'm so passionate about helping, women in business with mental health challenges, because I want to hold them. I want to support them. So having someone like you do that, it's just incredible.
Thank you. And likewise, and that's when you did this call out, because we've been obviously following each other, ladies. We've been following each other on Facebook and things like that. And I love your art. So again, it's finding strategy. So like you said, coming back, it's active listening, being without judgment. Because I wrote a blog a while ago about why a psychologist, or a professional versus a friend. Because a friend brings their history in, they might give platitudes or make it. In fact, they can make it worse. You need someone who is separate from it, who can sit there not professionally, what's the word, objectively, and can just hear you. no matter how ridiculous it sounds or how frightening, like you said, because I've had suicidal thoughts. I've bargained with God. If I don't wake up in the morning, I don't quite know how I would have known, but if I don't wake up in the morning, I'll really love you. Something like that, thinking afterwards, well, then I woke up in the morning, went, okay, right, why? So yeah, I have felt all that too, like you. But how do we talk about it?
Yep. And
when I don't know about you, but I knew I would not commit suicide, but I was so bad that I just thought I bargained.
Yeah, my point, because this is when I was still actually in nursing, and I live right opposite the hospital, and I was sitting at the lounge looking at where I worked, the actual area where I worked, and I went, got my ID, I can walk over, I could take that drug, because I didn't need drugs of addiction. I knew exactly what to take being a nurse. I went, I could take all those and I could just do myself in, because who's going to miss me? I don't have a husband, I don't have kids, I don't have anything. My family don't talk to. What's the matter? And thankfully, I know there was someone up there, because a switch just turned and I went, oh my goodness, what did I just actually say in my head? And thankfully, I'm so grateful, because I did actually have, I had a plan and everything. I had all of those things that they talk about. I had it all. I had everything. And then thankfully that switch. And that's why, talking to you about mental health for business women is so important. We need to talk about it.
We do. And thank you. Oh, I've just gone goosey too, because when we're in business, we are, as I said, like we've said, we have to be a certain way. Fortunately, I'm finding beautifully of the feminine, what I call the feminine, that creative side is coming in as well, that we start listening to our intuition, we start talking, we start showing it's okay to have emotions. Because what I realized was I'm meant to be, well, I have been at the extrovert, but I became agoraphobic, and I didn't realize there's also a word called social phobia. I didn't want to get off the couch. I didn't want to move. So for me, this was huge, because I'd driven all around the world. I was brought up in Europe, born here in Australia, brought up in Europe. My father taught me to drive around the Champs-Elysees in Paris. So I could drive anywhere, any side, okay? Speak languages, talk to anyone. From that to not being able to get off the couch was just too big. So of course, how did that affect my business? I didn't want to be visible. I didn't want to go out. If I did go out, I was too scared I wouldn't get there. Once I got there, I'd burst into tears. Then I wasn't good with, you had been good with money. I couldn't look at my P&Ls because my brain was so scrambled. I mean, we can't go into all the depth of that now, but I had no concentration, couldn't focus. I could not put concepts together. I could see them as individual little satellites, but try and bring it together, no idea. Now, up until then, I'd been highly functioning, highly organized, great memory, and then and to boot, menopause, perimenopause. I went into early menopause, and like you, no children. I didn't realize I hadn't grieved the fact that I wasn't a mother. Because again, that's another topic we could talk about ad nauseum, about this pronatalistic society. It's all around being a mother.
Yeah.
So, just throw that all into the mix, because it is complex PTSD I have. It's like, okay. And I'm laughing, ladies, or like that, because it's when you can look back, you can see how illogical it is. But when you're in it, it is so real.
Yes, it is. And that's like, I didn't realize until I did the diploma of counselling. Like, I knew of grief, the medical way.
Yes.
And then going through that, suddenly we were talking about grief, and my teacher went, so one way of grieving is grieving an identity. And boom, I just went, what? And then she went, grieving work identity. And I just went, oh my goodness, I gave up a 30-year career. That was my identity. And then that set me off. And of course, all of this, did affect my business. And I admit that. But being able to look at all of that and go, wow, this is what's happened. This is why it's happened, because I needed to do this as a business, and it's like,
yes. Yes. Oh my God. Yes. It isn't, like you said, people don't understand that there is grief involved, because as you said, identity, because you grapple with, you want to stay who you were. You don't know who you've become. You're in this in between. So it's easier just to do nothing at times. You think it's easier because you have no reference points anymore. you know, and you want to go back to that moment, in my case, that moment before the car accident. I would like to have gone right back when I was driving home. It was the second anniversary of my partner and I living up in the hills together. We're going to have a glass of champagne and a delicious dinner. And within a nanosecond, that didn't happen. It didn't happen.
Yep.
You know, and that's how quickly it can change, or it can be, you know, through divorce, love, death of a loved one. I mean, there's so many reasons, getting a diagnosis, or like you realizing I'm a woman without children. What does that mean? Where's my identity?
Yes. Yeah. I'd left that 30-year career. So who am I? What do I do? Yes, I'd started a business and I was doing that. And, you know, and that's the other thing as well, is we don't want to talk about success. Like, you know, we want to, like you were saying before, we want to show up and go, yep, I'm successful. And yet we mightn't have a client come in, or all of these things mightn't be happening, but we've got to show up and we've got to go, yeah, you know, I'm successful. And that's the other thing I want to bring forward, because I see so many posts that I know affect our mental health, where you're in groups, oh, I've made 10K months, and within 6 months I was making 7-figure, you know, and I'm like, oh my goodness. Like, honestly, is that true for starters? Is that actually true? Because they don't say that's profit. And that's
that's exactly. Oh my God, don't get me started, because this is a big topic for me too. Because again, I was just thinking of how was I going to write a post literally the last couple of days on my walk about what does success mean. Again, success is defined with material things and how much you make, even as an entrepreneur or businesswoman, let alone in career. And I realized what we don't celebrate, which is what we're starting to do, and I will say us, because is success is emotional. Success can be also physical, because you got over an injury or an illness or whatever it might be. Emotional, because we have come through mental health, but that's not, because you see, there's no KPIs for that. You can't say, oh, that's a $10,000 win or $1 million win. For me, at one point, because it was pointed out to me by a life coach years ago, getting out of bed was a success. And I remember looking at her going, what? But that's what I'd done for, 43 years at the time. How could you call it a success? It was a success.
Yes, or for me, like, I had a headache for 2 days. Well, actually, it was a migraine. And that was success because I acknowledged it and I didn't try and push myself. I stayed in bed. I took pain relief. I did all of that stuff and I acknowledged it. And that is a success, because I am now embracing, I'm listening, and I'm different from other people. I really believe my business has an energy. It's got chakras. Like, I'm passionate about chakras. It's got chakras, and it's also got an inner child. So they talk to me. They actually talked to me and they said, you're staying in bed for a couple of days. And they also said, because of that, we're going to rest as well. And boom, and it just,
exactly.
All of that is a success.
It is. It's this, because again, because we often call it self-care. I call it caring for self, because for me, it's deeper than that.
Yes.
And like you said, that is a success. So that's, again, so you mentioned earlier, how do I work with clients? All those things is looking at what you have done. Because initially you come in, we've got to look at, all right, what's happening for you now? Can it be related back to somewhere? But we deal with what's presenting with now. Then what we do is I suggest strategies, but ultimately it's you who has to create your own. So I give you ideas, because often as women, we don't even know how to care for ourselves, because we're not being taught to. Selfish, good girl, everyone else first. Okay, even a woman as us without children, we still do that. Okay, because so coming back to you, so that's exactly right. So what do you do to support yourself when you have a migraine? What do you do to support yourself when you're having a day of anxiety? Because it's important, ladies, or whoever's watching, to have strategies in place now.
Yes.
As best as you can before something happens, but you have strategies, because then you have that go-to. Because I had a struggle, my first ever, I decided to do a webinar on how trauma affects your business. Oh, yeah, webinar, easy, I can do all that now, right? And I put I got all the information out. And again, part of trauma is all or nothing. So I gave it my all, and then I bombed. And about 10 days before I was due to, so something I didn't know, give myself a month to market it, get it ready. So I'm learning so again, it's learning to understand, how do you operate?
Yes.
Not what everyone else says, it's how you operate.
Yes.
Not, so again, so I had my strategies in place, but then I bombed. I literally bombed. I ended up in a depression, the worst I've ever felt. So the psychologist, I have a spiritual psychologist. I didn't, my poor partner was just looking at me. You simply do it. Like, he didn't mean that, but it was like, I realized I'm only doing a webinar for crying out loud. Yet here I am, I triggered into every
Mm.
possible negative thing I could. Do you know
Mhm.
what it was in the end, Darlene? Being on Zoom,
Mhm.
and well, this was on Zoom. There was no safety because I didn't know what was going to, and predictability.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Because I couldn't understand why was I going. I know my topic. Someone helped me with the slides. I knew, blah, blah, blah. I know I can talk, leg of a hind donkey, and yet it was safety and predictability. That blew my mind.
Wow.
Yeah. So you see, this is how it presents itself.
Mm.
Everyone else can do webinars.
Mm.
Why can't I?
Mm.
I've got Zoom. I've got technology. I've got internet.
Mm.
It comes from this part, as you know, the amygdala, that primal part. No logic. So I said, so for those 10 days before, I nearly didn't do it. So those 10 days beforehand, I used every single strategy, but like you, to support myself through the anxiety, not push through it, support through it.
Yes, yes. Oh, I
So
love.
like you did, you knew what you needed to do.
Yes, yeah, and I love that you used not pushing through, because that is so much of what I've done in the past. Okay, I'm just going to push through. I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to do it. And then it's like, whoa, hang on, what's going on? No, now I'm going to support myself. And that's why when I learned acrylic pouring, and it's like, oh my goodness. So I've got all these things I can do now when I'm not feeling right. I can create soap, I can make candles, I can paint, I can do whatever. And it's not, um, you know, even if it means that I'm not doing something in my business like creating a post, that is still going to create content in the end, because I can get on and go, okay, this is what happened and this is what I did.
Yes, exactly. And the thing is, this is again what I believe need to separate from is that our downtime is also part of our business. For this last, I've been doing well since social media and all that's coming, and this new way of doing business compared to the old way, because I'm nearly 60, so it's like in the old days. I can't believe I'm saying this, but anyhow, we no longer know how to separate business from personal. But like you said, your creativity is your downtime. That's you, because of course it's part of business. That's where you can get your insights, or as you said, you create those posts. So like, talking about creativity, ladies, because I've been doing stuff too. This is my downtime. Now I have no idea what I'm doing, but I allow it to flow. This is coming back into the feminine side. I wanted to work with dots. Now I had to really let go of perfectionism, not getting it right, or that. And I'm bringing colors together I never thought I would. I'm following some at the moment to do Zen doodling, because like you, I know I had to struggle with taking the time off. I'm taking the time off work. So again, when you're in trauma or mental health, you get this obsessive nature. Even when I was meditating, Darlene, I was still trying to work things out.
Yes.
Overanalyze.
Yep, me too. Yep.
Think things through.
Yeah.
I'm exhausted.
And that was me as well, because 30 years in a health career, like you really had to be so strict with everything, your time management. A patient would come in, like I worked in emergency and I worked as a student paramedic and all of that. So you can imagine how I had to analyze everything. I had to be a detective. Same thing in business. It's like, no. So now I've got a routine where I do actually shut off from my business. I talk to my business. It is actually an energy. It's an energy. And I talk to it and I say, okay, thank you so much for today. Now I'm going to close down and now it's time for me. You can rest. And then I do the same thing in the morning. Good morning, business. And that is how I've really learned to, my business is still part of me, but I can actually turn off.
And that's it, part of me, because that's trauma is part of me. Business is part of me. And it'll always be part of us. Trauma will always be part of you. It's how you manage it. And it will appear. I love it. And I agree with you, energy, because I started working with the Akashic Records a couple of years ago, and with the Reiki, because I'm a Reiki master as well. And like you, it was like, oh my God, like you. Things could come through. And that's how I was able to finally dissolve my previous company and come back to being a sole trader, going, yippee, the freedom. When you can finally let go of this dream that you had up here because you're following other people's story and their energy, drop into yours. So again, coming back, that's how I work. We drop back into you. What suits you?
Yes.
Your energy, your personality, your finances. Because when I talked to a financial advisor, interesting enough, I met her on in Africa on a meditation safari, and she lived down the road from me. And she works with spirituality and Buddhism. And when she helped me get through all what I hadn't done, all that sort of stuff, she sat down and said, right, how much, let's work out how much do you need to earn a year to have a good life? My God, it was this compared to this.
Yes.
I didn't need the 6 million. I didn't six figure, seven figure. But I got caught up in the lifestyle or the potentiality. No, I don't. I need this. Now, this at the moment still feels a lot. It was like, oh, Darleen.
Yes, I know this. And that is what I love, anyone that comes across me, I love saying, you don't need to make 6 and 7 figures. Work out what is right for you and aim for that. Because you've got all of these people going, oh, you've got to earn 6 and 7 figures, and you don't. You do what's right
You
for
don't.
you. And that's why I
right.
struggle with business coaches, because it's like my body, some of the time my body will just go, no, that is not right for you. And I listen and I go, okay, business, what's going on? And that's why I'm so passionate about reconnecting to our body and listening to what our body says. If someone is giving me advice, I listen to my body and my business. They will talk together, and I get a yes or a no, or how about you think about that? And then it's so much more successcul. And that's why.
Sorry, go on.
No. I know.
Active listening, darling. Not happening.
I love it. And the only reason I'm being successful at that is because I looked at my mental health. I looked at, okay, I've got depression, I've got anxiety, and I've got PTSD, I've got suicidal thoughts. What's going on? Let's have a look at all of that and go from there. And wow, it was just incredible. Like, and it's made such a difference. And I work with a psychologist as well. I have one. Freely admit that as well. I need a psychologist. And it's been so good. Yeah.
It is. And I think coming back to what you're saying about coaches, so this is two things coming from the programs. My father, I've been through Al-Anon and Alateen. Take what you want and leave the rest. So that's what I'm learning to do. So like you said, it's about discerning. So basically what you're saying.
Yeah.
Number two, coaches have been trained by NLP to create fear. For you to buy. Now, I don't want anyone ever to work with me based on fear that I have created this time. You can, within the week, you're going to get all these bonuses. No, because it never sat with me, never worked. So like you said, you've got to come to work with with someone that you feel is there. That's number one. Number two, a few months ago, I was sitting quietly meditating. When I was sitting quietly meditating, it dropped in to coach the coaches. And I went, excuse me, I don't even have the training. It said very clearly, somehow, and I don't know if it's going to work and how, we need to start making coaches also trauma aware.
Yes.
And because it's whose responsibility? Is it theirs or is it yours? But if you don't know what you don't know, and they don't know, how's this going to work? Because often what they do is you don't succeed. Somehow it's still your fault. You're to blame. You're not doing it the right way. Rather than, well, actually, this doesn't fit you. Let's look at how could it fit you? But no, I've got your money. Now I'm being critical here and judgmental, and I'm working through that. So I'm a bit mindful how I say it. Because it's like, well, when I didn't know what I didn't know, I bought into things. Oh my God.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Fear-based.
Totally.
All fear-based.
Yep.
And did I get success from these things? No. So of course I did. So I did resent, but I also had to look at, well, I didn't know how to take responsibility either. Exactly. But it's making each other accountable.
Yes.
No, because come into my, because someone did said it, come into my group where everyone's doing well. Well, then it gives that fear base. If I'm not in that group, either I'm not spiritual enough or I'm not the success, I'm not all this. Rather than go, actually, I don't want to be in your group. I don't actually need to be in that group.
Yep.
It's only when you come to this place, like you're saying, when we come into this place of alignment and go, you know what, I don't need to buy into that anymore.
Yes. Yep.
Or I might try it and go, you know what, I'm allowed to get out, because often we think, oh, I can't do that. That's the good girl.
Yes.
Why? You know what? I'm just unjoined, delete, whatever.
Yes. Yep. Totally. And that's why, when I work with business coaches, it will be business coaches for creatives, because they get me. Like
Love it.
all the other beautiful business coaches I've worked with, it's like, this is the way it is. This is my program. This is how you do
That's
it. And it's like,
That's it.
that doesn't work for me.
That's it.
Too bad then. It's like,
Yeah,
oh.
exactly. Exactly. And I think you said it beautifully, because it doesn't mean these coaches aren't good at what they do. Clearly they are.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
However, they're not for everyone. But we've created this, it's for everyone. My program, that worked the way I did it, will work for everyone. No, it doesn't. So I still think there needs to be, perhaps when they onboard you, a lot more questions asked.
Yes. Yes. Yep.
But again, they don't know what they don't know. So how on earth that's going to happen for me? It may or may not, but it was such a drop in. It was like, okay, like something was talking to me. So I've made a note of it. It's parked.
Yep.
We'll see.
Yep.
We'll see.
So exciting. Oh, I've so loved talking to you. It's been absolutely amazing. And again, I could talk forever. And I will. I'll be getting Chantal again back because I'll be doing Arty Thursdays. So I'll definitely be getting you back. So just talking about your beautiful art. That'll be so exciting.
Thank you. Thank you, Darleen.
So thank you everyone for watching, and thank you for subscribing. I think it's down there somewhere. You never know. I just go wherever it is.
Just subscribe.
Exactly. Beautiful. Thank you again so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Pleasure, Darleen. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.